are live. Thank you everyone for your patience. We're starting a little bit later this evening. I'm going to read the resolution to call the meeting to order. Be it resolved that the meeting be called to order and that the agenda for the meeting be adopted as circulated. Can I get a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Prague, seconded Councillor Bisetti. Any comments? Councillor Link?
Of course, I'm going to be voting to adopt the agendas as they appear on the RM website for the public and on the AllNet for council. This does not mean I approve of any additions made to the agendas following the end of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Hearing and seeing none, I will call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed, and that is carried. Thank you. We have almost full council members in attendance this evening. Councillor Link from Ward 1, Councillor Bisetti from Ward 2, Councillor Prague from Ward 4. Councillor Clyburn is suspended at this time. Our CAO, Brent Alnick, and our planner from Red River Planning, Derek Eno, joining us for this evening. We have two public hearings tonight, and so we will get through those. Item 4 on our agenda, opening remarks. So I will read our opening remarks. The Arm of West St. Paul strives to be a safe and inclusive community that residents are proud to call home, where diversity is embraced, the environment is cared for, and leadership is valued and trusted. The West St. Paul Council is committed to working as a team to provide good governance, safe and reliable infrastructure, recreational facilities, and outdoor spaces that the community can enjoy in a sustainable way that values the environment and is financially prudent. Thank you. And just before our public hearing, we've got two public hearings, one for a variance and one for conditional use. So for some people who might not be familiar with our process, I'll just briefly highlight the process for that. We are aware that most people who attend or view council meetings for planning matters like the ones here tonight are not completely familiar with how the planning process works. I want to just spend a few minutes to provide some additional context so we have a better understanding of the process and requirements under the Manitoba Planning Act and our local bylaws. Any person can apply for a variance, conditional use, rezoning, or subdivision as per the Manitoba Planning Act by making the application with West St. Paul Planning Authority, the Red River Planning District. This does not mean council has endorsed the planning item. When an application is submitted, council is required to hear from the applicant and from those representatives who attend the public hearing to speak in favor, in opposition, or for more information. It is important to note that council is being presented with all the information at the same time as those in attendance here this evening. There are procedures council members must follow once an application is officially filed with the Red River Planning District and until such time as a decision is made. Council members cannot speak with the applicant or any other person who may be seeking information or wants to speak in support or opposition of an open application. This guards against anyone influencing council members before the public hearing and ensures that each member of council makes their decision on the same information heard or presented by way of correspondence here tonight. Often residents are frustrated by not being able to speak to their elected officials once the application has been filed, but this is done for these reasons that are discussed above. The Red River Planning District staff can, however, answer questions from the public at any time. The Red River Planning District accepts applications from residents and developers who want to build houses, sheds, swimming pools, garages, decks, and from those who want to subdivide their lands from one lot splits to larger subdivisions. Red River Planning District staff are professional planners recognized by a professional association and are tasked with researching every application. Their work and recommendations to council are made based on a legal framework, not personal opinions. They review each application against the Manitoba Planning Act, our development plan, and our zoning bylaw. They also circulate the application to many other organizations that may be impacted, such as Manitoba Infrastructure, the Public School Finance Board, Sustainable Development, Gas, Hydro, and adjacent municipalities, such as the City of Winnipeg, East St. Paul, and Rockwood, to name a few. Our RPD staff does this to determine if the application meets all legal requirements. At the public hearings tonight, council will hear from many delegations and we will ultimately decide if the application is a good fit for the community and if it will be approved. We consider both the legal requirements the planner has researched as well as feedback from our community. And with that, Mr. Eno, I will turn it over to you Oh, sorry, I have to close our meeting first to open up the public hearing. Be it resolved that this meeting of council recess for the purpose of holding a public hearing pursuant to section 96A of the Planning Act. Can I get a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Link, seconded Councillor Craig. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed, and that is carried. Mr. Eno, I will now hand it over to you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll just share my screen with all of council. Just bear with me. Here we go. So the first application in front of you is variance application VO 136 of 2021. It's for a property located at 197 Falsher Road. And the purpose of this variance is to reduce the minimum lot size requirements in the agriculture zone, the A4 zone, from 4 acres down to 3.85 acres. So once again, it's for 2 lots going down to 3.85 acres. This is part of a approved subdivision, file number S212918, which was approved by council and the Planning District Board. And approval of a variance is one of those conditions. So here's the subject property outlined in the hash mark. You can see it's agriculture land with the existing farm site. And then here's the subdivision layout, the legal plan, showing the 2 lots that we're talking about, which are coming in at 3.85 acres, which is about 96% of the requirement. And I should note that from a technical standpoint, the lots could have met the 4 acres. However, from a practical standpoint, that would mean cutting into the existing farm site, the homestead site, as well as the shelter belt that you can see on the air photo there. We don't have any concerns with this application. We're recommending that it could be approved, just subject to one condition, which is that the variance is limited to what is proposed. And if there's any changes, it has to come back to council. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Eno. I will go around our virtual table here and see if there are any questions for you. Councillor Link, any questions for Mr. Eno?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Eno.
Councillor Bisetti?
No, thank you.
Councillor Pereg?
No, thank you, Mr. Eno.
No questions from me as well. Thank you. Ms. Elias, do we have the applicant on the line with us this evening?
Yes, Madam Mayor, we have Robert Orsolak with us this evening.
Welcome, Mr. Orsolak. Can you hear us okay?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
We can, yes.
Okay, so I'll just make it very brief. I guess everybody's aware of, first of all, hello to the mayor and council. But anyway, I did want to subdivide my house off the farm property because it's easier to sell the house with 4 or a little bit more acres than, and sales are pretty good in West St. Paul. The 2 lots come in a little bit under, actually 11 feet each to make 4 acres. But the property line is 70 feet from my house or 56 feet from to the deck. This is country living. I could have taken the extra 22 feet, but I don't want the boundaries that close to the house. I feel that I'll sacrifice the whatever on the 2 lots smaller, so at least the people that do buy the house one day have a little more like right to property, like. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Orsolak. I'll see if there are any questions for you. Thanks so much. Councillor Bisetti, any questions for Mr. Orsolak?
No questions. Thank you, Mr. Orsolak.
Councillor Pereg?
No questions. Thank you, Mr. Orsolak.
And Councillor Link?
No, I don't have any questions either. Thanks for joining us though, Mr. Orsolak.
Thank you. If you can hear me.
Thank you. And no questions from me as well. Thank you.
Okay.
We'll see, just stay on the line. We'll see if there's anyone registered in support, opposition, and then you do get the opportunity to speak again. Ms. Elias, do we have anybody registered to speak to this application?
We do have Mark and Andrea Groening. They are registered in support. They're not with us this evening and didn't provide any additional comments. No one registered against or for information.
Thank you, Ms. Elias. Mr. Orsulik, is there anything else that you're wanting to add for council before we close the public hearing?
No, this is what I asked for, and actually I got more than I asked for, so I have no complaints. Everything's going fine. I'll probably be calling Mr. Olenek there and some help because I guess it's going to be finances from now on. Thank you.
Any further questions for Mr. Orsulik from council? Thank you for being here tonight. I think your request is quite reasonable, and I do appreciate your effort to save trees. We've got a lot of residents in West St. Paul that want to make sure we have treed space. So that shelter belt around the property that you have, we can appreciate your request for a variance here this evening. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
With that, I will close the public hearing. Be it resolved that the council do hereby close the public hearing and resume the regular meeting of council. Can I get a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Brussetti, seconded Councillor Prague. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I will call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you, and I will read the resolution. Whereas an application for variance order 136-21 was received for the property located at 197 Fulshire Road to reduce the minimum required site area for lots 1 and 2, which are being created as part of a conditionally approved subdivision S21-2918 in the A4 agricultural zone, from required 4 acres to 3.85 acres plus or minus. And whereas under the provisions of the Planning Act, a planning hearing has been held to hear representations both for and against the application. Therefore, be it hereby resolved that after careful consideration, Council of the Rural Municipality of West St. Paul hereby approves variation order 136-21 with the following conditions. 1, these variances are limited to what is proposed within this application, and any changes will require new variance approval. A variance order will expire and cease to have any effect if it is not acted upon within 12 months of the date of the decision. A board, council, or planning commission may extend that deadline under subsection 1 for an additional period not longer than 12 months if an application is received before the initial deadline. Can I get a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Brussetti, seconded Councillor Prague. Any further discussion on this application? Seeing none then, my only comments are this is great to see a variety of lots in West St. Paul that are available from small 44-foot to 3.8 plus acres. So happy to see that choices for everybody. With that said, I'll ask for a recorded vote, and I will call for the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Thank you. Our second planning public hearing for this evening, item 5.2. Be it resolved that the meeting of council recess for the purpose of holding a public hearing pursuant to section 105 of the Planning Act. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Link, seconded Councillor Prague. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I will call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed, and that is carried. Thank you. Mr. Eno, I will turn it over to you again.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm just sharing my screen here with you. So this is conditional use number 2 of 2022. It's for a property that's located at 1051 Capulus Drive. Specifically, it's to do with units 14 and 16. And for those of you that are familiar with the area, this is the AWC property where there's a number of different commercial units on the land. What the applicant is asking to do is to establish a veterinary clinic on the property, which is a conditional use in the highway commercial zone. So here's the subject property, obviously an old air photo as the area has been quite developed. And here's just the site plan showing the 2 units that are under discussion. So the applicant is proposing, as I said, to establish a veterinary clinic. They're proposing to have house pets, dogs, cats, and the like. They won't have any livestock on the site, but they may do some services out of office. I think their letter had indicated, as well as they're looking to establish fairly typical clinic hours of 7 in the morning till 7 at night. This is not a 24-hour clinic. Significant note, this is the applicant's actually second clinic that they're looking to open up. They have one currently that is south of the city of Winnipeg, and this would be a second one here. It is going to be adjacent to the emerging residential neighborhood, where I'm sure there will be lots of families with family pets. So it seems like it's a service that would fit within the area. And if council wishes to approve this, we would recommend two conditions. The first one is that the conditional use is limited to what is being proposed in this application, a veterinary clinic. And the second one is that the applicant needs to obtain all required permits, both from our office, from the municipality, as well as Highways has noted statutory requirements. However, we're not sure that that's going to actually apply to these units. That typically applies to the entire site if the site is changing, which it's not. That's all I have, Madam Mayor. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Eno. Go around the virtual table here. Councillor Prague, any questions for Mr. Eno? Councillor Link, any questions for Mr. Eno?
Yes, I have a couple of questions. The first question is MI's letter written January 26th says the intent is to allow for a veterinary clinic and compounds. But the planner's report says the purpose of the application is to allow a veterinary clinic on the subject property. There's a bit of a difference in the description. Could you clarify?
I'm not sure what MI is referring to as a compound. We list this as just a veterinary clinic as listed under the zoning bylaw.
Okay, maybe I'll ask the applicant about that as well. Maybe he can clarify. Another question is, MI appears firm about closing the Capitalist Drive approach. I think you just mentioned that. At PTH and number 8, top of page 4 on your report, it is noted that the intersection at Capitalist and 8 is temporary and will be removed in the future. But there's a sentence there that is, I actually didn't think I'd seen it before, but I did some checking and yeah. The sentence is, all internal roads will connect onto Grassmere Road. And so I was just wondering if the applicant is aware that changes are in the future with the roadways, and there could be some impact on the business.
I'm not sure if the applicant is aware of that.
Okay, well, I can check that out again with the applicant as well.
Perfect.
And I agree that the use appears compatible with the general nature of the surrounding area, and this is sure going to be a positive addition to other services being offered to our community. I think it's a good thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Link. Councillor Bisetti, any questions?
Just more for clarification, is this going in the same one that was going to be the doggy daycare? Is this kind of taking that over, or?
I can't recall which units the doggy daycare. There was a conditional use last year in the springtime, I believe, that council approved for a doggy daycare in this complex, but I'm sorry, I can't recall which units were actually going to be taken up by that business.
No, I was just curious, and if it's not, that it's a good fit with what's going on there. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bisetti. My one question would be, I read through their letter of intent and the hours of operation, as you mentioned, from an estimated 7 a.m. to an estimated 7 p.m. And so I'm just wanting to ask, on a lot of these properties, we've been really clear on the hours of operation, knowing that there is residential coming in behind. Is that something that we made hours of operation clear when we approved the unit, the building that this is going into? or we would have to have an added condition of hours of operation as per this application?
Council would have to add another condition. That would be typical to some of the other conditional uses that you've approved in the past, where you've actually said, for this particular business, here's the hours of operation. I'm sure the applicant can speak more to the approximate hours. I know having a pet and having to seek emergency services, sometimes things run just a little bit longer. So I'm guessing that's why the estimate's there.
For sure, thank you for that. Yeah, they've said they don't want to have it open 24/7, which is probably good with the businesses or the homes behind them. But a kind of vague estimate is not something this council's typically been supportive of without some kind of time frame. Councillor Prague, I saw your hand up. Go ahead.
I know most veterinarians on emergency basis, they do open up for just for emergencies. Because when I was with the city of Winnipeg and we had injured animals, and so they open for us just specifically for emergency, and that's it. So we can add a condition that just for emergency, if that condition can be added. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Ms. Elias, do we have the applicants on the phone or on Zoom this evening?
Yes, Madam Mayor, we have Dr. David Snell with us this evening. Also, Dr. Stephanie Van D. Snell and Dr. Samira Stewart-Altman, all registered in support. They are the applicant.
Good evening. Are you able to hear us okay?
Yes, I am able to hear. I'm Dr. David Snell. I'm going to speak on behalf of the owner group, which is myself, my wife Stephanie as well, and our partner, Dr. Samir Stewart-Altman. Thank you, Council, for having us. We appreciate it. I guess first and foremost, we're pretty excited to come up to the RM of West St. Paul. If anyone knows our clinic on the south perimeter, we're basically the exact other side of the perimeter, about half an hour around. So either direction you go, so it's kind of the site happened to be kind of right in the middle there, which was interesting. I guess first and foremost, I'll speak to a couple of the things that were brought up there. Councillor Link, you had asked about a description of a compound. There's no intention to put any compound there at all. It would be a fairly straightforward small animal clinic that exists within the walls. That would be about it. So I can't speak to why there'd be a compound listed there. Having been to the site a few times, the access via Grassmere, we had actually underwent some of the same stuff on the south perimeter when they closed off a lot of the left-hand turn lanes. And I think when I read that as well, I kind of looked at it closely, and I think they're going to close that left-hand turn heading south on Highway 8 to get into that calculus and just extend the service road up to the lights just to avoid that cross traffic turning. As far as if it will affect our business, there is access from the other side as well, where like the Sonova center is there. So I think that would be okay, but we are aware that they're probably going to eliminate that left-hand turn and move everything back towards the lights at Grassmere. Mayor Christian, you had a couple questions about hours there. I guess the reason we put 7 to 7 at our clinic in the south, most of our surgical drop-offs and stuff, we have staff arriving at about 7 o'clock. Most of our surgery drop-offs are around 7:30, and then when clients come in for regular appointments is usually between 8:30 and 9. As far as the closing hours, we do have a bit of a seasonal trend. In the winter, we're usually closed at 5:30. Staff are gone by 6. In the summer, we will sometimes extend our hours a little bit, just to do with the daylight and everything like that. So, and as Councillor Prague pointed out as well, there are a few times where we will have people, even though we are not open, there are some special cases where we might come in on an emergency after hours, which would typically be one client and one vet, not a lot of traffic. But the intention is not to offer, extended emergency care, be open to midnight or anything like that. So as far as setting set hours, we can do that, but I do like how Councillor Prague addressed that you know, if we're stuck late during the surgery, we might, you know, obviously be there a little bit longer in that sense. But yeah, other than that, we were pretty excited to become a part of the community up there as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Snell. I'm going to go around our virtual council table here and see if there are any additional questions. You've done a great job of answering the questions so far. We appreciate that. Councillor Link, any further questions?
Just to confirm, so you will be referring some emergency cases maybe to Stonewall Emergency Clinic. I believe there's one there, and there's a couple in the city, but they're quite far away. So, but that would be your intention? It would just be some specific cases?
Yes, that would be the intention. As a mixed animal practice in the south, even with our small animal emergencies, we do refer them into the city now, just because the volume became too much to staff properly and look after the patients properly. And so the intention is not to have full-time staff late, and so we can't handle those emergencies.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Link. Councillor Bussetti, any additional questions?
No, everything was clarified as he was telling us. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Prague.
All I want to say to Mrs. Snell and company, welcome to West St. Paul, and wish you lots of success. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Only one question from me, and you had mentioned that you're okay to limit hours, and with Councillor Prague's suggestion about emergency only and rare situations, that you would be okay for us adding that as a condition?
Yes. Yeah.
And the time frame that you listed, if we were going to add that as a condition, from 7 a.m. until 7 p.m. With possible emergencies after hours under, I don't know what the term would be, maybe Mr. Eno, when you write up another condition under rare circumstances or something, that would be acceptable, Dr. Snell, if we put 7 to 7 with emergency on a rare basis, something to that effect?
Yeah, I think that would be fine.
Good. Thank you. And I'm excited to see a business like yours in West St. Paul. We're a growing municipality and lots of people have pets. So thank you for your interest in West St. Paul.
Top 10 in Canada.
Yep. We are the 10th fastest growing municipality in all of Canada. I'm just going to use that opportunity to plug that again because I'm on a bit of a high. So you're moving into the 10th fastest growing municipality in all of Canada. So of course you would want to be here. Thank you, and you're able to speak again. I don't know if we have anyone registered in opposition or for support or for additional information. Ms. Elias?
Yes, Madam Mayor, we do have Anna Alberg with us this evening. She's registered in support.
Thank you. Mrs. Alberg, can you hear us okay?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
We can, yes. Welcome. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Good evening, folks, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to you. I'll follow up on your recent comment and congratulations, I guess, on the Statistics Canada mentioned yesterday from, of course, last year's May census. Time will tell how much we can pat our back on that, but outside of Canada's major population centers of BC, Ontario, and Quebec, there's only 2 other non-urban municipalities that showed rapid growth, and both of them were in Manitoba, namely the town of Niverville and, of course, our very own West St. Paul, as you said. The growth, unfortunately, our rate of growth makes this census of last year already out of date for us, because since last May, West St. Paul has over 1,200 additional homes in approval stages of planning, to add to the census report of an increase of 461. So although this 461 individual dwellings is a small number comparatively, it is still a 25% increase between census periods. I guess time will tell how much we'll know that this is a great thing. But otherwise, let me move on to this exciting edition of the veterinarian clinic here in West St. Paul. I think it's finally a business that's coming into West St. Paul that potentially can serve every household that is here. So it is exciting. And I thank you to the planner for pulling together this great report. As Councillor Link has already mentioned, there is the comment in there again about the Capitalist outlet being closed in the future, that all internal roads will connect onto Grassmere Road. And of course, the new tenants, should they be successful, have also been made aware of this. So this application, the planner has nicely reminded us that this has been in the workings over the last 2, 3, 4 years. And I guess it's a bit like a puzzle. As the pieces and time go on, the context changes, the larger picture starts to fall into place, and then little pieces of information have a different level of importance. And so now that we are really pretty much backed into a corner in Parkview Point, we're at this northwest corner. So we have this exciting new business, this veterinary clinic, and I believe the residents will want to know what is really going to be the access point for them to get safely in and out of this new business. In the Middlechurch Secondary Plan, which of course you are all extremely familiar with, it's now 10 years old. But if we look at the Grassmere Creek Neighborhood Strategy, that section in talking about the phasing of development clearly shows in its reference maps that there is going to be this northwest outlet onto Grassmere. And of course, in the past, this didn't have a whole lot of importance, as we talked about little snippets of the puzzle, but now of course it comes into play a lot. And so I believe that since the planner has so nicely pulled us through this history of the development of Parkview Point, now we're at this corner, the northwest corner, and there's always known that there will be an outlet onto Grassmere. I believe this is a demonstration that Manitoba Infrastructure and our old Manitoba Highways, that in fact they take their mandate seriously, and they have always paid attention to the evolution of the roadways, if you will, and that this expressway, or what we call the perimeter, needs to be controlled in a better fashion. And so quite frankly, when I look back over these last few years of the evolution of Parkview Point, I don't particularly feel duped, but I do feel that I've been purposely misled away from the truth by everybody here. There's been a lot of smoke and mirrors. Over the years, myself and other residents have asked about this outlet onto Grassmere. Mayor
Mrs. Albrecht,
Christian,
I'm going to stop you there, just
this
because
is
the
very much
access
about
point
the
was
access
part of an
onto the
application
veterinary
that previously came to council for a subdivision of how many homes, Mr. CEO? 414 homes in Parkview Point. And so that access point through that development is not specifically part of this application. And so I just want to ask again, you had mentioned about this business being trapped and access cut off, and I am going to go to our CEO to touch on that. But are you registering in support of this application, or are you suggesting council not approve this, that this business is trapped? It sounds like you're not wanting council to approve this. I just wanted some clarity that you are registered in support.
I see that I was muted there. So to clarify, I did not say any of the words that you just said. I did not say anything about being trapped. I have registered in support of this, and I am following exactly the information that the planner has put into this report for us to look at. I'm looking at the information in the report. Is it not the accurate information?
Thank
Are
you,
we
Mrs.
not to
Alberg,
look-
and that's what we'll get clarity for. Thank you for your comments and for registering to speak for this evening. Mr. CAO, I am going to ask for
There we
some
go. She
clarity
did it.
regarding the closure. What I had
She
heard from
did it.
Mrs. Alberg is they're in the corner there. They need to
Yep.
be aware of no access. And so can you speak to that and what we've heard from Manitoba Infrastructure? Because I know there's lots of different comments that sometimes people within Manitoba Infrastructure respond when the request comes out for requests. And then from the ministers, we've heard different comments, and from people that you're dealing with at Manitoba Infrastructure, we've had different comments. So Mr. CEO, maybe you could shed some light on that for all of us.
Yeah, I can shed some light on that. First of all, there's about $12 million in new roads
No.
built by the developers.
It's in the
So
public.
you can come in off Main Street and you could go through Parkview Point. You could come in off Main Street and MI is building a new road that will turn left before the tracks and take you to Capless. So there's two access there. But in regards to the access that in support Mrs. Alberg is talking about, the last time we talked to the minister, he made it clear to us that Capless wouldn't be shutting at Main Street or McPhillips, and that they needed that for emergency access if there was ever an accident or some kind of event, emergency taking place on the perimeter, that they would be going to Main and McPhillips and having the traffic detour around Capless and to get from McPhillips to Main. So he was quite alarmed that anybody had suggested that they're closing that, and he was quite clear. And actually, you were on that call. And he was quite clear that McPhillips would have access to Capless. So I'm not concerned at all about close down at Capless. I've misled nobody. Everything that we said was going to be done is done, including the Grassmere residence, where we said we wouldn't put a bridge with vehicle traffic over onto Grassmere right now, where the pedestrian bridge, the $1 million pedestrian bridge that is starting and to be completed this summer. So nobody's been misled. Everything's done that was supposed to be done. We've had public hearings on these other areas. As a matter of fact, we've had additional information sessions with the public in these areas. So I'm quite surprised that that anyone would say, you know, especially when they come to saying their support, that they would try to deter this group from coming to West St. Paul with such an exciting business. I'm excited for it. The person coming to West St. Paul excited for it. It sounds to me like if this is their second clinic, they've got a business plan. They know what they're doing. I don't know why at this point anyone would be fear-mongering them.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. Appreciate the clarification. Mr. Bersetti, any questions for Mrs. Alberg?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Prague, any questions for Mrs. Alberg?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Link, any questions for Mrs. Alberg?
No, I don't have any questions. Thank you for coming and joining the meeting, Mrs. Alberg.
And no questions from me as well. Thank you, Mrs. Alberg. Anyone else registered in support or opposition, Ms. Elias, on this application?
No, Madam Mayor, no one else registered.
So Dr. Snell, you have the opportunity to speak after comments made from the public in support and opposition. I would just like to say that I apologize that some of those comments were not at all related to you or your business or this application. But in light of that, you do have the opportunity to speak in response.
Thank you for the opportunity. I guess from our perspective, we have dealt with the road closures on the south perimeter, like the access closures and everything. And We are accustomed to dealing with scenarios where you have to work with Manitoba infrastructure, and we are well aware that that's probably going to happen in that area as well, and we know it's not going to impact our business. So we are still moving forward if you give us the blessing.
Thank you, Dr. Snell. Any further questions for Dr. Snell regarding this application? Right, hearing and seeing none, then we're going to close the public hearing and decide on the application. Thank you for being available for us tonight to answer questions.
Yeah, and thank you to council.
All right, I'll read the resolution to close the public hearing. Be it resolved that council do hereby close the public hearing and resume the regular meeting of council. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Link, seconded Councillor Bersetti. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I will call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed, and that is carried. Thank you. All right. Mr. Eno, in light of the comments regarding hours of operation, do you have a suggestion for an additional condition added for council to consider?
Sure. Let me read something and you can let me know if it sounds good to council. So there's the two conditions. The first one is that the conditional use is limited to what's been proposed. The second condition is regarding the applicant obtaining all required permits from the different authorities. And this would be the third condition, that the hours of operation are limited from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. with the exception of emergency services that occur from time to time. I think maybe with that language, it kind of indicates that this is not something that's going to happen all the time. Does that sound about right?
That sounds good.
Okay.
I'll read the resolution, and if council has concerns, then we can always modify. Whereas the applicant has applied for a conditional use application 222 to allow a veterinary clinic to operate at Unit 14 and 16, 1051 Capitalist Drive in the CH Commercial Highway Zone. And whereas under the provisions of the Planning Act, a public hearing has been held to hear representations for and or against the conditional use application. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Rural Municipality of West St. Paul approves conditional use application 222 under the following conditions. 1, that the conditional use approved be limited to allow a veterinary clinic as proposed within this application. Any changes in use or expansion will require a new conditional use approval. 2, applicant owner to obtain all required permits and approvals, including but not limited to those from the Red River Planning District, RM of West St. Paul, and Manitoba Infrastructure as required. Mr. Eno, I'll have you read the new.
Of course. And 3, that the hours of operation are limited from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. with the exception of emergency services that occur from time to time.
Thank you. The approval of a conditional use will expire and cease to have any effect if it is not acted upon within 12 months of the date of decision. A board, council, or planning commission may extend that deadline under subsection 110-1 for an additional period not longer than 12 months if an application is received before the initial deadline, and for a second period of no more than 12 months if an application is received before the expiry of the final extension. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Bersetti, seconded by Councillor Perag. I'll go around the table and see if there's any further discussion. Councillor Perag?
No questions, thank you. Looks good.
Councillor Bersetti?
No, thank you.
And Councillor Link?
No questions, thank you.
No questions from me, just comments. I think that this is an excellent business, a great addition to our community. I think our local businesses are the backbone of our community and certainly provide a healthy tax base for us. And it's one of the reasons why we're growing and thriving. I certainly hope that the comments presented tonight don't discourage anybody from supporting this. And if I understand correctly, there's currently one access off of Main down Capitalist, one on McPhillips off of Capitalist, and then we also have the access going all the way around on Capitalist through the new development, and there'll be a fourth access point coming off of Grassmere at some point in the future at the far end of Grassmere by the light. So my understanding is this business will have 4 access points. I don't think that that's a concern or a reason not to approve a thriving business that will be welcomed in our community. So those are my comments. I will request a recorded vote, and I will call for the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Thank you. All right, we have one more planning item, not a public hearing, but I'll keep you around, Mr. Eno, if you don't mind, to guide us through item 6.1, first reading of zoning bylaw amendment 2021-14P. And so if you don't mind walking council through that before I read the resolution.
Of course. Thank you, Mayor. I'm just sharing my screen with you again. So this is zoning bylaw amendment 2021P. It involves two properties that actually have Grassmere addresses, but it deals with the portions of the property that are actually located south of the Grassmere drain. And the applicant's proposing to rezone these portions from the A80 agriculture zone to the RS service residential zone. So here's the subject property, or the areas of the properties that are proposed for rezoning. The addresses are actually north of the drain, where you can see there are existing homes. This application is related to a subdivision application that will come to council in the future that involves splitting off the south portion of this property from the north portion. But this is the first step to get rolling. And just a bit of a context map for the current zoning. So what the applicant is proposing to do is to make it that brown color, which is the RS service residential zone, similar to the neighborhood that's already emerging and under construction there. We don't have any issues with this application at this time. It generally conforms with the development plan and the secondary plan, but we are recommending that you give first reading to it, which would afford us the ability to collect more information by circulating it to the government agencies and doing some more thorough analysis and bringing it back to council for a public hearing. And we would be aiming to schedule that public hearing at the same meeting for the related subdivision file. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Eno. We'll see if there are any questions from council, recognizing, as you've said, that this is just a first reading to trigger you to do your research. Councillor Bracetti, any questions for Mr. Eno?
No questions at this time with the first reading. Thank you.
Councillor Link, any questions at this time for Mr. Eno?
Yes. Can you confirm the applicant is not the RM?
That is correct.
Thank you. That's, I think I got that from your, you clarified that in your presentation, but I just wanted to be sure. Now, the legal description bothers me, even though this is just the first reading, is the legal description describes in your report or in Ms. Ojo's, is that it's her report?
Femi Ojo, yes, that's his report.
Yes. Okay. In that report, the legal description describes all of the entire two properties.
Correct.
And not simply the portions of the two properties that are going to be rezoned. And that fact is clarified only in the background information on the first page, that it's parcels C and F that are only being considered. I think that our resolution should clearly identify the parts of the properties that are going to be rezoned. Parcel C is part of Plan 31310, roll number 400-638, Grassmere, or roll number 400 at 638 Grassmere, as shown on the zoning bylaw amendment plan. Now that zoning bylaw amendment plan is on the very back page. I always print these things out. So it's printed on the back of Schedule A. Is that part of Schedule A? Is that a page 2 of Schedule A?
I'm not entirely sure what you're referring to, but what I can do, if it's all right, I can show you the actual bylaw itself, which I think will clarify any confusion here. So if you permit me, Madam Mayor, can I share my screen again?
Ms. Shaw is the woman behind the controls, and so Ms.
Oh,
Shaw,
okay.
will we
will,
provide Mr. Eno
I
the
think that-
opportunity to share his screen?
Yeah, access here. So I'm just going to share my screen here.
Yeah.
Oops, can you see this?
Yes.
So this is the legal bylaw. So when we write bylaws, we describe the entire parcel so that there's that identifier, so we know exactly where we're talking about. And and as you'll see in the first line, if you can see where my cursor is, it says amending by rezoning portions of, and then we scroll down as illustrated in Schedule A, and then Schedule A forms part of the bylaw, which just illustrates those parcels that are just south. Does that help you out?
Is your report not got another page on it?
Nope, not this.
Well, really, I'll show you what I've got if you can see it in the camera. It's called, it printed out on the back of that Schedule A. I don't know if you can see this. And
oh, yes.
Not until I saw, so is that part of Schedule A?
It's not part of Schedule A. That's just part of our memo that we provide to council. That's the actual subdivision plan.
Yeah, until I saw that, I really was confused about what part of these two properties were being rezoned. And I think in our resolution, we should be very careful to clarify that it is only, and specifically clarify what parts of the total properties are being asked to be rezoned. I think we should be careful to give a good legal description. That was my concern.
Thank you, Councillor Link. Councillor Bisetti, any questions for our planner?
No, I'm good with the way the resolution's read. I understood it after looking at Schedule A there that it's only that piece of the farmland. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Craig?
Yeah, this is the first reading. All my questions will be for the second reading. I don't want to prolong this meeting. And the resolution looks okay to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Eno, as a follow-up question there, Councillor Link is referencing your report to help inform council. The resolution is written based on the two-page bylaw and the portions of, if I'm understanding you correctly, the portions of in referring to Schedule A is directly the bylaw. So there's no mistaken in the bylaw of which portions it's related to because the schedule is attached as part of the bylaw. Am I understanding that correctly?
That's correct. The actual map is part of the bylaw. And if there's concern that maybe the public isn't going to be, might get confused on this, I'll make a note, and what we'll do is make sure that it's clear in the public hearing notice, if that sounds good, that we're talking about the portions located south of the Grassmere Drain.
Thank you. Councillor Link?
Yeah, if we could have it clarified on the second reading that it is parcel C, plan 31310, the roll number and the civic address. And the same as for the second property. Also, on March, I have read that on March, the planning meeting in March, this is coming, the subdivision is coming to us, I believe. And already on the Red River Planning District's subdivision statistics, that has the subdivision has been circulated already. So I find that this to be kicked off tonight. The first reading will trigger the reports going to the different government agencies. But yet this is already happening with the subdivision. Is that typical process?
Mr. Eno.
Yes, it's pretty typical that an applicant will submit both a subdivision and a rezoning application at the same time. I can appreciate where you're coming from, that it would be very clear if it was a nice linear process. But when both applications are submitted to our office, we're obligated under the Planning Act to do certain things within certain timelines. So as you're aware, we can't circulate the rezoning until council gives first reading to the bylaw. However, when we get a subdivision application, we can circulate that, and we're kind of obligated to circulate that immediately. So there is a bit of a disconnect there, but it's that comes from requirements under the Planning Act. And then what we do along with your administration is to organize so that both applications come back in unison to council at the same time.
Okay, let me clarify one more thing. I appreciate those comments. But one more thing then, I'm sure that you have done research and analysis about the subdivision. You need to do additional research and analysis before you can recommend this rezoning.
I haven't done any research or analysis on the subdivision. It's just in circulation to the province. So when we get a subdivision application,
okay,
we circulate it immediately, and then we collect all that information, and then we do our own analysis and weigh it against the policies. Does that make sense?
Yes, and we will be seeing that analysis. When will we be seeing that analysis?
You'll be seeing that analysis when we submit the report and the package to council for consideration.
And so
I have to look at the calendar for the actual dates.
You think it'll be a combined hearing?
It's not a combined hearing because the subdivision is not creating any new roadways.
Okay.
Yeah, but there will be a hearing for the rezoning as required by the Planning Act, but we're going to try and have both the applications at the same meeting for council.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your patience.
No problem. I'm here to help.
Mr. Eno, can I get you to bring up the bylaw one more time? I just want to make sure Councillor Link has raised the issue to make sure that we inform the public of the roll numbers. And there seems to be confusion here regarding a subdivision process and this process and why you haven't presented your reports to us. This is a bylaw, so just to remind council that bylaws involve 3 readings. So our first reading triggers Mr. Eno to then go out and do his research, and then it comes back to us as a public hearing as part of the second reading. And then as a bylaw, there is a 3rd reading as well. So that is why we're not seeing any recommendations or research from Mr. Eno tonight as part of that bylaw process, and which is quite different than the subdivision process where an application comes in, Mr. Eno dives right in and starts the research right away and then brings it to council. So just a reminder for council. And then on the point of making sure that our residents have all of the information, this bylaw is attached to our agendas. It is a bylaw to amend our zoning bylaw. And so the very specific information of the roll number and the location, 638 Grassmere, and all of the technical legal information that legally has to be included in the bylaw is included there. So I know we have a lot of viewers. I don't want anybody thinking that Mr. Eno is not including the correct information or that our municipal staff are not including correct information in our resolution. So that is available on our website. If you can't bring that up, Mr. Eno, that's okay. I just, confirming that all of that technical information is completely accessible to the public at this very moment on our agenda.
For sure, I can bring that up for you now. I didn't want to cut you off as you were speaking, so I'll just bring that up again. So once again, here is the actual legal bylaw that has the name of the bylaw. It's 2021-14P, and then it talks about what this is. It's for a rezoning or amending your zoning bylaw, and it talks about it's to be rezoning portions of two properties, which are described here both with their legal description, as you see on their title, the title number, the roll number, and we put an address in just so there's many different points of reference of where this is geographically located. And then also part of this shows what it's being rezoned from and to, as well as we like to include a map, which is the Schedule A that illustrates, you can see down here, exactly the portion that we're talking about that's part of this bylaw. I know some other municipalities do things differently, but we like to have many different points with to identify what we're talking about, legal description, addresses if they're available, roll numbers, certificates, and the map, because I'm a visual learner. So it tries to be as clear as possible. So.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Eno. And that's all included in our bylaw, available for residents to see. We've got that attached, and then further detailed information. If first reading passes, then we would await your additional research. Thank you for being here tonight on this item and explaining that for council. I will read the resolution, and then if there's any further discussion, be it resolved that bylaw 2021-14P, being a bylaw of the Rural Municipality of West St. Paul to rezone a portion of the subject lands located at 630 and 638 Grassmere Road from A80 Agricultural Zone to RS Serviced Residential Zone, be read a first time. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Brzetti, seconded Councillor Prague. Any further discussion on this item? Seeing and hearing none, I will ask for a recorded vote, and I will call for the vote. All those in favor? Opposed, and that is carried. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Eno, for being available this evening. Much appreciated.
Thank you for your time, Council. Have a lovely evening.
You too. All right, we are down to item 6.2. We have the Red River Planning District Activity Report, Development Services Permit Issuance and Activity Report, December 2021. And Planning Service Applications Received and Activity Report, December 2021. Mr. CEO, is there anything that you were wanting to add to this? If not, it's attached for all of council and our residents to see as well. We're a busy municipality, the 10th fastest in Canada. I'll raise that a couple of times. And so we always have a lot of planning information attached, and I think it's great that we've been including these.
Yeah, I'm not going to go through them. They're there for the people that want to look at it. I will state that Red River Planning has done very well. On one section, their planning application revenue was up 115% last year. And on their permit fee revenue, it was up 34%, but in that 34% is a $500,000 increase. So you see a very healthy Red River Planning, a very healthy region. And I would say that the proof is in the pudding, and this is on the strength of West St. Paul, on the strategic planning, and all the good things that have happened to West St. Paul in the last 4 years, so that Red River Planning, the region, and the province have all benefited from our strength, and I'm proud of it. And I think that you know, this goes to show how well we're doing here. So sometimes when you're measuring and you're hearing different things, when you see numbers, that's when you can measure about success. So this is a success story for Red River Planning, for the region, for the province, and especially West St. Paul, who's driving the economic strength in our region.
Thank you, Mr. CAO. Any questions, concerns regarding the development services, permit information, or applications? I will, on this note, provide council with an update that Red River Planning, with the support of West St. Paul, held an education briefing yesterday, Wednesday afternoon, that involves 60 builders and developers from West St. Paul and some of our neighboring communities. And myself and the CEO were asked to attend that, and I opened that up and had discussed, and Ms. Elias, our planner as well. And developers were walked and builders were walked through the process of going on cloud permit, how to enter all your information step by step. And that is in anticipation of the growth that we will have in spring. So I want to once again, as I did at the beginning of that presentation, thank Red River Planning for doing that. They talked about the additional people they have hired out there, and Councillor Brussetti and I on Red River Planning have been instrumental in requesting additional support, not only for our community, but for others. And they were guided through the process. So we're very grateful to Red River Planning for holding that. Ms. Ferguson, the Executive Director at Red River Planning, was thrilled with the attendance turnout of 60 people. That wanted to go through the process and make sure that there is as little red tape as possible and a really straightforward process come spring when we have more houses going up. So I wanted to update council on that and really just commend Red River Planning for planning ahead and hopefully making this a really great season for our builders. And a lot of those folks, I'm proud to say, are local builders that will be putting up houses in our community come spring. So really proud to see their excitement and their energy to be bringing more jobs into West St. Paul and more families. So it was a very successful session. All right, number 7, 7.1 is special meeting minutes of January 24th. Be it resolved that the minutes of the special meeting of council held on January 24th, 2022 be approved. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Brussetti, seconded Councillor Link. Any discussion on those minutes? Hearing and seeing none, I will call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed, and that is carried. Item 7.2, regular meeting minutes of January 27th. Be it resolved that the minutes of the regular meeting of council held on January 27th, 2022 be approved. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Link, seconded Councillor Prague. Any discussion, concerns on those minutes? Hearing and seeing none, I will call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed, and that is carried. Thank you. No delegations for this evening. And we have a couple of first reading, second reading for bylaws for consideration. 9.1, first reading of bylaw 2022-2 added to taxes. Be it resolved that bylaw 2022-2, being a bylaw of the Rural Municipality of West St. Paul, to add outstanding accounts and utility charges to the tax roll for the year of 2021 be read a first time. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Brussetti, seconded Councillor Prague. Any questions on that item? Councillor Link, go ahead.
Yeah, a brief question. And it does not have to be answered tonight because this is a first reading, but I'll just give you a heads up to that question. How do the utility arrears for 2021 compare with the amounts in arrears from previous years? Should I repeat that or no? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. On second reading, then if we can have additional information on that. Any further questions? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed, and that is carried. Thank you. And 9.2, first reading of bylaw 2020-3 tax cancellation. Be it resolved that bylaw 2022-3, being a bylaw of the Rural Municipality of West St. Paul, to authorize the cancellation of taxes owing to the municipality for the year 2018, 2019, 2020, and 2021 be read a first time. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Prague, seconded Councillor Link. Any questions, comments on this? Go ahead, Councillor Link.
What does OAA stand for? I guess this is through the mayor to the CAO. OAA. It's in the middle of Schedule A.
Ms. Shaw, through the CAO, I will direct that question to you.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. OAA is an abbreviation for Owner Assessment Agreement.
Okay. Would you be able to answer also then in regards to that owner assessment agreement? It looks as if there's been 2018, 19, 20, and 21 all involved. And I'm wondering why each year there's taxes canceled. And I guess that's it. Why are taxes being canceled each year? Are they simply spreading them out over time, which doesn't seem to make sense? This could also wait till second reading. It's the same, well, of course, it's the same roll number each time.
Ms. Shaw or Mr. CAO, so why are we looking at 2018, 19, and 20 and 21 all at the same time? Is Councillor Link's question.
Address that, Madam Mayor. Owner assessment agreements occasionally happen when a property owner files an appeal for assessment. And what happens is the property owner and assessment come to an agreement of what the appropriate assessment for the property would be. That can sometimes impact multiple years. So I can't speak to specifics on this role, but that's typically why you would see multiple years affected on the same role. Does that help clarify?
Well, so it's $884 or so the first year. Now, do we add up those and it's the total amount that that roll number owes?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Well, there's a certain amount of money. Do we add up each of those figures for the 4 years? And that is the amount that has been agreed upon to be canceled. $800 and so will be canceled for 2018.
That's correct.
Okay, so why wouldn't that have been canceled? Well, of course, you only do this every few years. So you know.
So we have a board of revision every fall.
Yes.
So in that process, what can happen is if an applicant submits appeals to the board of revision.
Yeah.
There's two scenarios. One, an owner assessment agreement will come to fruition before the board of revision, or the applicant comes to the board of revision and a decision is made. Okay, so
yeah,
in either scenario, it can affect multiple years.
I'm guessing, Laney, on that one, I don't have it right in front of me, but someone filled a supplemental tax bill, and that's multiple years. Councillor Lynch, you've sat in on a few border revisions over the years.
No, the first one.
I remember you. Yeah, the first one, right?
4 years.
Yeah, I thought this is a real familiar process that's happened over and over and over, guided by provincial legislation. We're just following the rules here as guided by the province. Yeah, if you go to the provincial legislation for assessment and the parts of the border revision, you'll see it's quite clear in there with their legislation.
Interesting comments. Thank you, Mr. CAO. I may phrase my question differently on the second reading.
Yeah, or feel free to send me a note on that.
I'll look at.
I'd be willing to answer that. I don't think that's something that I don't think everyone needs a lesson on legislation or the assessment process or what the province is doing tonight. I think the rest of council seems quite clear what's going on. So if you want to give me a call, I can sit you down and bring you up to speed on how the legislation works.
Oh, well, that's lovely. Thank you so much for that lovely offer. Yes, thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Councillor Link. Councillor Bisetti, any questions?
No, thank you.
Councillor Prague, any questions?
No, thank you.
No questions from me as well. This is something that we deal with every year, same process every year. This is our first reading, and so the information is here for residents to see as well. All of the information in terms of why there's been tax cancellations are listed, and just to highlight that for residents watching, house fire, house moved off of a site, taxes reassessed. So this is common. We deal with this every year. I have a mover and a seconder. I will call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed, and that is carried. 9.3 is our second reading of election officers bylaw. I will read the resolution. Be it resolved that bylaw 2022-1, being a bylaw of the Rural Municipality of West St. Paul, to appoint and to fix and provide for the remuneration of a senior election officer and other election positions, and repeal bylaw number 2013-18 be read a second time. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Prague, seconded Councillor Braccetti. Any questions, comments on this bylaw? Hearing and seeing none, I think this is great. I think it's good that our senior election official and her staff will be compensated on a rate that's fair with other municipalities across Manitoba. So this is a good thing. Seeing no further, I will ask for a recorded vote, and I will call for the vote. All those in favor? Opposed, and that is carried. And 9.4 is third reading of elections officer bylaw. Be it resolved that bylaw 2022-1, being a bylaw of the Rural Municipality of West St. Paul, to appoint and to fix and provide for the remuneration of a senior election officer and other election positions, and repeal bylaw number 2013-18, be read a third and final time, signed, sealed, and therefore passed as a bylaw of the Rural Municipality of West St. Paul. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Link, seconded Councillor Braccetti. Any further discussion on this matter? Hearing and seeing none, I will call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed, and that is carried. All right. We are at item 10.1, accounts. We have the payment register detail as of February 4th, 2022. We have manual payments as of February 4th, 2022, and we have visa reports as of January 31st, 2022. Those are all received as information. Any questions or concerns regarding that information? Councillor Link, go ahead.
I'll just give through you, I'll give Mr. CAO a heads up. I have some follow-up questions, and I will share them with all of council in the spirit of transparency. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Link. Mr. CAO, anything else that you're wanting to add regarding the accounts this month? Okay. We have item number 11, payroll monthly statements. Be it resolved that the payroll for the month of January as follows be approved as presented. Can I get a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Prague, seconded Councillor Braccetti. Any discussion on the payroll? Seeing and hearing none, I will call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed, and that is carried. Item 12, monthly financial statements. We've received December recently. Item 13, CAO report. We have the CAO January report. Any comments, questions regarding the CAO report, which includes reports from his staff? Councillor Link, go ahead.
I'm just looking at January 28th, Mr. CAO, about system capacity study for Cartier Water Co-op. Will there be any update forthcoming about the system capacity study for Cartier Water Co-op for our council?
Thanks for the question, Councillor Link. So what that is, it's the beginning of a capacity study as commissioned by the province of Manitoba, recognizing the growth of West St. Paul. And now that we're one of the 10 fastest growing communities in Canada. They are looking to see how much water that West St. Paul may need in the future, and Rosser and other members of the Cartier Co-op. So they've commissioned Stantec to do a study on this, and the study will be published by the Manitoba Water Services Board. We are only one of a group that they are contacting and interviewing. So what we did is we walked through all our current development needs with them to make sure they had them correct. We went, we reassured them that the schools, that there are 4 schools now, either in West St. Paul or coming to West St. Paul. We needed to tell them that the Middle Church Care Home is coming on to potable water. The Middle Church Home is excited about the nice, safe water they're getting. We had to tell them about the big news at the retail, that those kind of demands, just to make sure that they hadn't missed anything, and then all the future needs for West St. Paul. So when that capacity study is done, it will be published by the province, Manitoba Water Services Board, and I anticipating that being about in 5 or 6 months.
Well, that's excellent, isn't it? And could you give us a heads up when that's published?
We would put it on our agenda and follow council and all.
Thank you, that's super.
Any other questions regarding the CAO report? All right, no questions from me as well. Thank you for your report. Council January report. Any questions regarding the Council January report? Seeing none, we also have Animal Control January report attached there as well. And so all of that is accepted as information. Item number 14, communication. 14.1, miscellaneous correspondence for the month. I'll read the resolution, and then if there are any questions. Be it resolved that the Council of the Rural Municipality of West St. Paul accept the miscellaneous correspondence for the month of January as information. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Link, seconded Councillor Parag. Any comments, concerns regarding the miscellaneous correspondence? Councillor Link.
I'm looking at the Rec Manitoba January 7th report, the newsletter. And there's some safety policy, the need for safety policies highlighted in Mooney Bay tobogganing accident report. And what's said is municipalities, if they take the appropriate steps and develop a written policy with regard to maintenance, and they're talking about maintenance of toboggan slides, and inspections of their hills, and have a risk assessment carried out on these sites approximately every 10 years, then their liabilities are covered, and they're in a good position, a safe position. Do we have such a policy, a written policy with regard to maintenance and inspection of toboggan hills? And also, do we have a written policy with regard to maintenance and inspections of playground areas and playground equipment and structures?
Your comments on the toboggan hill are very timely, Councillor Link. Our staff are amazing, and it's a good opportunity to commend them. We don't have snow hills per se in West St. Paul. We have little hilly areas that residents might grab a toboggan and head down, but we don't have any snow slides for sliding. And areas with hills like Rivercrest are marked at your own risk, and residents have been using, but we've never had any designated snow hills. With that said, Councillor Prague was instrumental in dealing with residents, and we were in touch with the CAO right away in terms of the safety of that area. And our public works staff moved snow around in the Rivercrest Park and helped create a pathway. and a buildup of snow is used by kids for tobogganing and sliding. And parents made note of some safety concerns in the area. Is the area safe by the baseball diamond? And Public Works monitors that, moves snow around to make sure that it was safe. So we've had some really great response, thanks to Councillor Parag and residents reaching out. But we don't have any designated hills per se. We have areas that residents are making use of and turning into snow hills. And your questions about recreation, I'll defer those to the CAO in terms of the training, specialized training that our award-winning recreation director has to be inspecting all of our equipment.
So, Madam Mayor, may I ask a follow-up question of you? Are the toboggan hills that kids use in Rivercrest, are they not on municipal property?
We do not have any designated toboggan hills, Councillor Link. We have an area that was built up because of flooding. And so we have an area with a parking lot and a play structure and a monument for veterans. And then we have a large dip that has a baseball diamond and a field and a shelter for residents to use that was never created as a snow hill. Residents are using that as a snow hill. Our municipality has marked up, signage about use at your own risk. We do know that it is being used for that from time to time. And so snow is moved around to help make that safer. We have no designated snow hill areas in our community. So if residents showed up to Sonova Center and found a pile of snow that was built up by our public works staff at the end of a parking lot and they took a toboggan down it, they're using that as a snow hill. When they clean the parking lot in Rivercrest and they push the snow, residents are climbing up that snow hill and sliding down. We don't have any designated snow hills in our community, but we understand that residents in Rivercrest are, kids are going out there and sliding down a natural hill. And so our public work staff has taken the initiative to make sure that that area is safe, even though it's not a designated area, and says, this is at your own risk. This is not a snow hill.
But it is municipal property.
It is municipal property, but we don't have any designated snow slides or snow hills in West St. Paul.
Fine. And the playground situation with the playgrounds and the play structures, do we have a policy on maintenance and inspection of playgrounds and play areas?
And I know you brought this to council a number of times, Councillor Link, but I'll let the CEO explain again. I think that you're fully aware that Demara Geddes has all of her training and does inspection of the recreation.
Yes, but is there a policy? My question is there a policy?
Mr. CEO.
The mayor inspects the playgrounds annually.
There's no policy, I take it.
No, we don't have a policy for that. We
And you see
inspect them
no need
annually.
of a policy. Okay. You see no need of a policy. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Link. What would the policy say? It would be a one-liner to say, Demara Geddes, the recreation director, inspect annually.
I am not going to wordsmith a policy. That's up to the management of the RM to do that. I'm bringing to your attention an article that was in our correspondence, simply making some suggestions on how we can cover liability for areas where children play. I brought this up in the very first year of the term. I haven't brought it up since. I'm aware that Demara is trained in inspecting, but I don't know if there's a schedule. We would need a policy for that. Thank you. That's all I have to say.
Mr. CEO.
Thanks, Councillor Link. As you were aware, when you brought that up in year one, I had arranged for a group to come in from Edmonton and put on a course that they put on for the capital region. So West St. Paul was instrumental in bringing a training organization in at their expense. And I called them up and I said, you should do something in Winnipeg. I think that you would get a number of groups to attend. So they did it. Once again, under the leadership of West St. Paul, other communities were able to educate themselves. We're leaders in the capital region. Once again, we were a leader in this program. We don't need a policy or procedure for everything we do. It's not necessarily, or I would just be sitting, and the small staff of West St. Paul would just be sitting writing policies all the time. And you know, I've found that sometimes when we write policies or procedures, that they're not even followed by, I'm not talking about staff, but other formal officials in the municipalities. So we pick and choose where we will be doing policies. You're probably not aware of every policy or procedure we do, and you probably are, you know, you shouldn't be. I don't know why you need to be totally aware of every piece of business that we're doing, you know, in the municipality. Do we have a policy on planting flowers? No, we don't. Do we have a policy on how we would plant a tree? No, we don't. Do we have a policy on how the fire department gets into the fire trucks and how they drive to the fire? No, we don't. There's a whole bunch of things that you're probably not going to know, and a whole bunch of things that we do that we don't have written policies for.
Well, thank you for sharing that, Mr. CAO. I thought it would be helpful if I brought up the Recreation Manitoba newsletter article as something to discuss briefly. Now, this has gone way beyond discussing briefly, and obviously there's no appetite for any policy about liability in the RM. So that's fine. Thank you so much.
Just to be clear, Councillor Link, staff sees this miscellaneous correspondence and shares it with us. So this is not something we need to go and inform Demara Geddes about, our recreation director. They see it and they circulate it with us. In terms of, I think, Mr. Seo, you could follow up in terms of broad comments about liability and risk and safety to people at our municipal parks, whether they're going down a pile of snow that happens to be piled up or whether they're swinging on a swing. Do you feel, and we've got insurance and we've got a process in place, do you feel, as Councillor Link has raised, she has concerns about liability for people in our parks? Do we have any concerns, Mr. CAO, with respect to liability?
On an annual basis, that you may not be aware of, Council, because we carry out business, you're not all aware of every piece of business that we carry out. We deal with the insurance group that represents all the municipalities across the province, and they come in and they will go around and look at the different things we do. We haven't had any recommendations from them until this year, where they recommended that we put some bollards up in the public works area for a safety reason. So that's the first time we've ever been alerted that we may be at risk for a situation in the municipality. We're always looking at, and I thank Council for, you know, when citizens, residents see something in West St. Paul. As a matter of fact, I believe Councillor Parag and Councillor Busetti brought up I guess a deteriorating of a swing in Lister Rapids. We put it on our request for service system, and we addressed it. So we're looking for Council and citizens to be the eyes and ears for us out there. If they see something that they're concerned about, they can enter a request for service, or they can do you know, what they should be doing. You know, they can call their elected official. That's part of the reason we have elected officials, to provide transparent information to the resident. A number of times I've had this, and sometimes we take it from Council for upgrading. Sometimes it's the citizens tell us, And we're always on the lookout when we're cutting grass, moving snow beyond our annual checkups to, when the people are cutting grass, they do have, they're trained to watch out for deficiencies or things that could go be at risk. We have our trails committee. They often flag things for us that are going on the trails. So our tentacles are out there in the community in regards to risk and safety.
Thank you, Mr. CAO. On the one note on the play structure swing equipment, if there's any residents that feel they can't be submitting requests for service, a 5-year-old child reached out to her counselor, Busetti, Counselor Parag, and myself to say that a swing needed upgrading. So if there's anybody out there that doesn't think that they can report a problem and know how that process works, a 5-year-old submitted that request for service and reached out to mayor and councillors. That's the youngest request for service I've received. And of course, we made sure that that was promptly dealt with. So if 5-year-olds can submit a request for service, I know other residents out there can do that too. Any further comments, questions on miscellaneous correspondence? I have a mover and a seconder, and I will call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. 15.1 is our miscellaneous meeting dates. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West St. Paul authorize attendance at the following meetings as listed. Can I get a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Parag, seconded Councillor Busetti. Any questions on the miscellaneous meetings? Councillor Link, go ahead.
Yeah, I have 3 questions. On January 14th, elections officer hiring meeting. You attended it with other people. I read the MLO's report for January, and there was an advertisement in the Selkirk Record on November 4th, posted on the website and so on, and resumes accepted until suitable candidate found for the office of and the offer of position accepted. And that was called complete by the MLO. And we just passed 3rd reading where the election officer she's carrying on, and she is able to appoint, she herself, in our bylaw, have given her, given her the confidence that she can hire her own assistants. So I'm having, could you clarify the need for an elections officer hiring meeting, please?
Sure. And your other questions, Councillor Link, and then I'll answer them all at once.
Okay, thank you. There was on January 17th, 18th, 20th, and 21st, you attended an administrative justice course, which is fine. I would like to know, who sponsored the course. I didn't see it under AMM or any other. In fact, I think there's a practice that all council members, which would include the mayor, get offers to attend courses, offers to register. Any member who wishes to go, we get an equal opportunity. I'm afraid I didn't see the administrative justice course offered. So I'm wondering why. And then the third, and also for the interpreting legislation session, same question for that. And thirdly, February and March strategies. You don't say who you met with, but strategies for February and March. What strategies? Thank you. Those are my questions.
Thank you, Councillor Link. Happy to discuss those issues. Very busy, as you can see by all the meetings. This is available to the public to see in the minutes when it's released. and also through reports to council. And I'm very active online of the things that I'm doing. So happy to report on that. And as the second fastest growing municipality in Manitoba and the 10th fastest in Canada, I am a busy mayor. January 14th, hiring election officer meeting. That election officer you mentioned on the 14th, you had a question. That meeting was to congratulate the new hires that had been hired under full authority of the CAO. That's not something that comes to council. As you had pointed out previously, our senior election officer is through legislation and we didn't hire her, but Sharon Yackel was hired as her assistant. And so I congratulated her. And I reiterated on behalf of council that I was invited to speak to both of them, how important it is that we have very well-run elections, what an amazing job they have done in the past, and how we really count on them to ensure democracy is carried out in our community in this election year. We talked about the ward boundaries and the changes proposed there. And really, you know, as the spokesperson for West St. Paul, and on behalf of council, how very important their role is. We've had some challenging elections in the past, and as we move forward for the election in October, making sure that they have the staff and support they need, our CEO will be helping them through that and his staff. So I was very pleased to congratulate Sharon Yackel on her role and to really highlight for them how very important their role is. January 17th, 18th, and 21, an administrative justice course. That was a course that specifically dealt with chairing difficult meetings. It's focused on tribunals primarily, but the focus was on things to improve chairing and managing and decision-making, tips to be dealing with difficult tribunals, difficult groups, and how to navigate some really challenging chairing responsibilities. So I've signed up for things like that, given the very difficult conditions that we have with this council. As everyone's aware, Councillor Kleiber is suspended right now on a 60-day suspension, and we've had some very difficult meetings to chair and try and work through, given there's been breach of confidential information, a lot of legal issues that this council has had to deal with. And so in my leadership role as mayor and as chair of these meetings, I need to make sure that I ensure that our meetings continue to run and that they're done so in a way that follows our procedural bylaw and has respectful conduct in the decision-making process. And this course has been certainly very effective in helping me become a better chair. Always learning, as you've pointed out, Councillor Link. The interpretive legislation is also very similar in terms of making sure legislation is interpreted correctly. We have spent, if I'm correct, Mr. CEO, $135,000 in legal this last year, which is a shocking amount to be dealing with code of conduct issues and legal challenges. We frequently consult our lawyer because of council-related issues, and certainly in this leadership position, and as we pass laws and bylaws, I need to be aware of making sure that I'm doing my job correctly. And so that is training that I have taken. We have training costs approved through our financial plan, a certain amount of training for council members. And Mr. CEO, I believe we're under budget in our training last year that council has used. And so I'm confident that that training will help ensure that I provide good leadership to this council in my role as chair. And as I mentioned, it's been a very difficult term at times to chair meetings when people don't follow our procedural bylaw and things have become as disrespectful as they have. Councillor Prague, any questions regarding the miscellaneous meetings? Councillor Bassetti?
No, thank you.
I have a mover and a seconder on that, and I will call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. We have 15.2 is our spring road restriction policy. Be it resolved that Council of the Municipality of West St. Paul approve and adopt the spring road restriction policy PW 2022-1 as presented. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Bassetti, seconded Councillor Link. And this is a policy that comes to council every year regarding our spring road restrictions. Mr. CEO, is there anything that you wanted to add?
No, this is annual. I've seen this in the 11 years I've been here, 11 times.
Thank you. Any questions, concerns regarding the spring road restriction policy? Hearing and seeing none, I will call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed, and that is carried. Thank you. All right, we have one in-camera item, and so I will read the resolution to take us in camera. Be it resolved that in accordance with section 152(3) of the Municipal Act, council do now move in camera to discuss a report of the ombudsman. And be it further resolved that in accordance with sections 83(1)(d) of the Municipal Act, any issues that are discussed are kept confidential until discussed at a regular meeting of council. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Brussetti, seconded Councillor Link. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I will call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed, and that is carried. Thank you. welcome back, everyone. Our Risen report coming out of camera is the Manitoba Ombudsman File 2020-1753. And Ms. Shaw, if you could please read the resolution for us.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Be it resolved that the Council of the Rural Municipality of West St. Paul accepts the Manitoba Ombudsman Report on file 2020-1753. And further be it resolved that the municipality post an electronic version of this report on our website.
Thank you, Ms. Shaw. Can I get a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Prague, seconded Councillor Bisetti. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I will call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed, and that is carried. Thank you. And do I have a mover to adjourn the meeting for this evening? Moved by Councillor Prague, seconded Councillor Bisetti. All those in favor? Opposed, and that is carried. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening, and that's our meeting for tonight.